What's up everybody, this is Adam with Reese Custom, and if you want to remodel your kitchen or you are building a piece of furniture that needs doors, let's talk about doors. Are they hard to make? No. Are they time consuming? A little bit. But there's some things that you need to know when making your own doors that we'll go over in this video. So let's get to it. Alright, so making doors is not extremely difficult. A lot of cabinet shops, bigger cabinet shops, farm out their doors. They'll order them from somewhere. Just because they do such a high volume, it makes more sense to pay someone to be building cabinets than to be building doors. Yes, they have a less profit margin on the total cabinet because they're having to pay for doors, but it saves them time. For me, in a smaller shop, lower volume, I need to squeeze as much profit as I can out of the job. So for me, I can build the doors. That gives me more control over the quality of the doors. Also time frame, a lot of the door places, they'll be 6 or 8 weeks out, and I just can't wait that long to get doors in. Also, for a standard poplar door, it may be $40 to $60, and we can build one in 20 minutes or so. So you just have to weigh it out personally. Either way, you're going to want to know what size door you want. So whether you order them or whether you build them, you need to know the size of the door. So let's see how we figure out the size of the doors you'll need. Okay, so one thing to consider when you're going to be making doors is, are you making an overlay door or an inset door? And what I mean by that is an overlay door will sit on the outside of the frame like this. An inset door would sit inside of the frame. We're going to be doing overlay doors. So that's important to remember when you buy your hinges, make sure they're for overlay doors. So how do we figure out what size doors we need for this? It's really simple. What you'll do is we're going to have 2 doors. So there's going to be 2 doors on each side of this cabinet. We're going to have 2 doors in this opening. The height, all the doors are going to be the same height. So this opening is 27¼ inches wide, tall. So what we'll do is we'll add 1 inch to that because the door will overhang a ½ inch all the way around. So write down, like in this instance, 27¼ write down 28¼ and then for your width you've got 28¼ we'll add 1 inch to that, it'll be 29¼ but then we're going to divide that in 2 because remember there's 2 doors going here, and so one door will overhang a ½ inch here, one door will overhang a ½ inch here, and they'll meet in the middle, but they'll both overhang a ½ inch at the top and bottom, if that makes sense. All right, so now we know what size doors we need. Let's talk about the equipment needed to make them. Now, obviously you'll need a table saw to break down the wood. If you're in a pinch, you can buy the wood from Lowe's or Home Depot and the width that you need, but hopefully you have a table saw. Also, you'll need a router table because we're going to be using this bit set from Whiteside, and these are excellent bits. I'll have a link to these in the description below, but I'll show you a little bit more about these in a second. But you'll need some router bits, obviously your wood. I use these ratchet clamps. I love these things. They've got these little corner pieces on them, and they work great for gluing up doors. So I'll also provide a link for those. You can get them in sets of 4 or whatever. I say get more than you'll need because you can always use them. I like to use that method a whole lot more than like pipe clamps. Not everybody has a big clamping wall they can clamp to like some of the big shops do, but those take up way less space. They're perfect for doors. You can put them all in a bag and hide them away, and they're just easier to manage a door with that on it as opposed to big pipe clamps hanging off of it. But then also you'll need some glue, sandpaper, things like that. Okay, so let's talk about prepping our stock to make our doors. Now this is poplar, and what I've done is I've cut it all down to 2 inches wide, all the rails and stiles, everything, because I want the frame of the door to be 2 inches wide. That gives us enough room to put our hinge in, have plenty of room for overhang and all that. I just like that look. It's totally up to you, whatever you decide to do. The process will be exactly the same for measuring regardless of your width of your rails and stiles. So how do we know the lengths that we need for these? Well, remember we wrote down 28 1/4 for our height of our doors. So our stiles are going to be 28 1/4 long. Rails are a little bit different, and I've done this the wrong way so many times that this is the best way that I've come up with doing it. Now remember, this will apply if you're using this bit set from Whiteside. So it cuts a 3/8 inch tongue on the end of the rails. So 3/8 and 3/8 is 3/4 of an inch, right? So just keep that in mind. So how we figure out the length of our rails is, remember our doors need to be 14 9/16 wide, the total door. So what I do is I take my two stiles and put them together, put it on 14 9/16 to this end, come back to here, and that's, we've got 10 9/16. All right, so 10 9/16 is how long this needs to be, but you have to add in 3/4 of an inch for your little tongues. So that gives us like 11 5/16. So the total length of your stock for your rails in this case will be 11 5/16. Now, I'm not going to show the router table just because I've already processed all these, but the first bit you'll use is this bit that cuts the groove. And you're going to run all of your rails and stiles through this bit, and that's going to cut your groove out there for your plywood panel. Then on just your rails, you're going to take the other bit and you're going to do just the ends of your rails, and that's going to cut your tongue there. And so when it's all done, it'll fit together like this. Now, quick tip when you're laying out all your material for your rails and stiles, what I like to do is I like to mark the top and reference, say this is going to be the top. I'll put a mark on it. I'll put a mark on every single one, and when I pass them through the router table, I keep that mark on top. And I do that just in case my bit isn't perfectly centered in the wood. It's going to be offset to either side the same on every single piece. When you assemble it, as long as you have all the tops facing up, the grooves are all going to be in the same exact place. So if it's a fraction higher or lower, it's not going to matter. The door will still be flush, it'll still go together perfectly. So we've talked about the issues you can run into with your rail lengths. Let's talk about how to find out what size you need to make your panel on the inside. And that's pretty easy. You can take your rail width and you can make your panel basically the same width as your rail. I'd do it just a hair narrower, just so it slides in easier. I mean, just like a 32nd of an inch, something like that, but just a little bit narrower. But hopefully you can see it's just a little bit narrower. That way it'll slide in perfectly. So that's our width. So we can rip the sheets of plywood down to the same width. All of these doors are the same size. So we'll rip them all down to the same width. Now for the length, that's a little bit different. And the easiest way to find the length of these is like this. So what I like to do is I'll go ahead and pre-assemble the door. Make sure everything's flush. Square it up. And then you can take and measure the distance on the inside of your rails. So this is, say, 24.5, and then add 3/4 of an inch. So that'll be 25.25. Because the groove that this bit cuts is 3/8 of an inch deep, right? So 3/8 and 3/8 is 3/4, like we talked about earlier. Now, just like the width I'll cut this just a hair shorter so it goes together well. But that's basically how you find the size of your panel. So now we have all our pieces prepped, we're going to assemble it. So what I like to do is I like to take my ratchet clamp and go ahead and kind of get it to the right size. You don't want to be fumbling with it when you have glue on everything. Get your glue, get your rag so you can clean up the glue, your panel, your 2 rails, your 2 stiles, and this is how I do it. Start off, we'll put some glue on our tongues here, and I like to make sure that it's coated on the sides, all over the tongue, and on the flats of our tenon, technically it's called. And I put the bottom piece in. Set it on the table, make sure it's flush. Then we'll slide our panel in. And these panels just, it's a perfect fit with that bit set. They just fit. I mean, there's no wiggle, no wobble. All right. Now we're going to put glue on our top side tenons. So then we just put it in these clamps, and what I like to do is I'll go ahead and ratchet it a couple times so that it's tight on there. Then I like to pick it up and make sure the door is in the center of these little corner pieces. That way it doesn't pull one way or the other. And then you can just tighten it on down. And as long as all your cuts are right, everything will be square. It'll hold the door square, and that's it. So we'll let this dry, and then it'll have to be sanded and, you know, holes drilled and all that good stuff. But that's basically how you make a door. So hopefully this video helped you out if you're looking to make some doors, or you're just curious about how doors are made. Hopefully you got a little insight into that, or maybe it actually helped you in your project. Either way, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you're interested in this type of stuff, maybe hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.